Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that I think is pretty relevant to a lot of our listeners out there, especially those of you who are, driving for rideshare companies and always looking for those little extra ways to boost your income.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For those of you who are constantly thinking about maximizing efficiency in the gig economy and really squeezing the most out of your time, this one might be interesting.
Right. So we're talking about chip tips, and it was something that you flagged for me. And it's basically this idea of adding a whole other layer of earnings to the rides you're already giving.
Yeah, essentially turning your existing rides into like mini income generators.
Okay, so let's break it down. How does this trip tips thing actually work?
So it's basically a referral platform. Think of it like connecting rideshare drivers with local businesses.
Okay.
So through this app, drivers can refer their passengers to these businesses, and the businesses offer like, discounts and deals. And if the passenger actually takes action on that referral, downloads the app, makes a purchase at one of these local spots, the driver earns a tip.
Oh, interesting. And these tips aren't like chump change either, right? I mean, we're talking like potentially a decent chunk of money.
Yeah, from what I saw, they can range, from like $10 all the way up to over $150 in some cases. So it's not insignificant.
Okay, so from a practical standpoint, how does a driver actually like weave this into their day to day?
Well, it seems pretty straightforward. The driver signs up on the TripTips app, and they get like a unique referral link or a QR code.
Uh-huh.
And then they can just share this with their passengers. Maybe they have a little card with the QR code in the back seat, or they just mention it, casually. Like, hey, by the way,
Right.
are you looking for any deals while you're in town?
So essentially, the passenger scans the code, downloads the app, and then if they spend money at one of these partnered businesses, the driver gets a cut.
Yeah, exactly. It tips straight to their TripTips wallet.
Yeah.
It's like directly monetizing those passenger interactions you're already having.
Interesting. So Trip Tips is really playing up these benefits, like effortless referrals, high earning potential, all without requiring extra work from the driver. What do you make of those claims?
Well, I think the effortless part depends on how comfortable a driver is, like actually engaging with the passengers.
Right.
I mean, sharing a link or a code is pretty simple, but doing that consistently with every ride does take some initiative.
It's like that little extra effort.
Yeah, and the high earning potential, obviously, that's going to vary depending on how many passengers actually bite, and how much they end up spending at these businesses.
Sure.
And while it doesn't require you to drive any extra hours, it does require you to be proactive about sharing. So it's not completely no extra work, but it's integrated.
It's more like smart work, right? Leveraging something you're already doing.
Exactly. And I think another interesting aspect is how TripTips emphasizes the support for local businesses.
Yeah, they're really pushing that angle.
Yeah, by encouraging passengers to explore local offers, drivers essentially become like these mini ambassadors for local commerce. So it's kind of a win-win potentially, you know?
You're supporting local businesses and you're potentially lining your own pockets.
Exactly.
So for someone listening who's like, okay, this sounds intriguing, what's the first step? How do they get started?
Download the TripTips app, register as a referrer, get your unique link or code, and start sharing it.
Simple as that.
Seems like it.
Our source also had some tips for drivers on how to really maximize those trip tips earnings. What were some of the highlights?
Well, having that QR code, like physically visible in the car, is a really easy way for passengers to engage.
Makes sense.
And mentioning the app, especially to passengers who might be new in town or looking for recommendations, that's a natural opening.
You're already kind of having that conversation anyway, right?
Exactly. And then thinking beyond just the immediate passengers, sharing your link on social media or in relevant online forums that can really broaden your network.
It's like building a little referral empire.
Yeah, it's almost like creating this personal network within your passenger base.
Interesting.
And, if you're consistently sharing good deals, you could have people regularly using TripTips through your referral, and that could lead to more consistent earnings over time.
So it's like building up that momentum.
Exactly.
So you're always looking for these efficient ways to potentially increase income. It sounds like Trip Tips might be a model worth exploring.
Yeah, it's a cool example of how platforms are trying to get creative and connect service providers with new income streams, by leveraging the interactions and networks they already have.
So this deep dive into Trip Tips really makes you wonder what other existing activities we do that might have this kind of untapped earning potential.
right? If we could just connect them with the right platform or approach.
Exactly. Like, what else are we doing that could be more than what it seems?
Lots to think about.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving into this with me.
My pleasure.
And for all of you listening, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.